Okay, hey, welcome everybody. I am live on multiple platforms. We're using our technology to do this. Also up on TikTok, apparently. I guess our account is going. And I've been gone a little bit, so I've not done a live, but there's so many great stories to cover to let people know what's going on. And by the way, the scams, of course, in Illinois continue. Now, as you see, I have posted this sign. I was out walking my dog this morning and noticed this sign in a neighborhood that I often walk in. Save the U.S. Department of Education. And underneath it, Illinois Education Association. So the IEA has created these signs and they are in people's yards. Of course, I just noticed this sign today. Who knows? Maybe it's been out for a while, but I did. Maybe I noticed it more because this is right after the Supreme Court has weighed in and said, "Hey, guess what? Trump, you can move forward with firing hundreds of education department workers." So, reading from a story in the New York Post. It says that the majority, in dissent, Justice Sotomayor wrote that allowing the White House to go forward with the dismissals hands the executive the power to repeal statutes by firing all those necessary to carry them out. The majority is either willfully blind to the implications of its ruling or naive, but either way, the threat to our Constitution's separation of powers is grave. Now, obviously, the majority of the justice, this was a 6-3 decision, did not agree with that. They believed that definitely Trump had the right to fire these people and to essentially do what he's trying to do, which is abolish the Department of Education. Now, he knows he can't fully abolish that department without congressional approval, but he's doing what he can to pare down costs and move that money. Doesn't mean that money goes away from the budget. What it means is that the bureaucracy at the federal level goes away from the budget, and all of that money gets basically block granted to the states to do as they see fit, which is a much smarter way. And speaking of education, it's also important to note a couple things. One, this is just a one-off article, but I wanted to bring it up because we've been doing our D.O.E. Illinois effort, and we appreciate the fact that other publications are picking up on that same sort of effort and actually looking into the budget into detail. And so recently, this article came out that in the Illinois state budget, it listed a $500,000 grant to Lincoln College, a local institution that's been closed since the spring semester of 2022. So it's been closed for 3 years, but yet still in the budget, that massive budget was a $500,000 grant to Lincoln College. Now, part of the reporting on that said that, well, this is just, how the budget's developed. The grant was in there a long time before. And of course, it just got re-upped every single year. But this tells you also the lack of detail, the lack of attention to detail that legislators have when they're putting this budget together. They don't care. They're just slapping it together. Whatever was authorized in the past year's budget gets authorized this year with a little plus up. There's very little scrutiny. And obviously there wasn't scrutiny on this because why would it be in the FY26 budget, a $500,000 grant to a school that has been closed for 3 years? This is a problem, but this is how your state operates when it comes to the budget. And of course, we're going to continue to bring you D.O.E. Illinois stories whenever we can get a chance to write them because there's so many of them to write. And again, we are still going through the current year budget, but we keep also going back to last year's budget since we have all that data. And I'm going to bring in some of that information when I talk about another topic, which I'm going to talk about the clean energy job scam that's going on. But in light of that, also the other big education article, of course, this week is that the Chicago public schools are in desperate need of money. And in fact, they don't have the money. They're short over $700 million. And so layoffs have started. Chicago Public School has laid off 1,458 workers so far. And that, I think, is probably just a beginning because there's no doubt that they may need to actually fire more. Now, the total includes 432 teachers, or about 1.8% of the total teaching force, and 311 paraprofessionals and school-related personnel. CPS said that the layoffs are part of the traditional school-level changes it makes nearly every single year. But I want to bring this chart up here, because they certainly can probably cut more. Of course, they've had this idea that they can't close schools. And so we're going to add this to the stage instead. This is a wire points graphic. that my buddy Ted Dabrowski and Mark Glennon, they run WirePoints. They did this graphic back in August of 2022. Now, subsequent to that, you've also learned that about 50 schools in Chicago, there's nobody reads or does math at grade level. None of them. But this article from 2022, it's a few years back, but this is still true. You see that about 1/3 of traditional Chicago public schools are half empty or worse. And you can see what's highlighted right there, the number of schools and how many students are actually attending versus the capacity. And it's pretty bleak, right? So there's a lot of wasted space, a lot of wasted staffing going on, all because this whole idea that we can't close any schools. And in fact, I believe that was legislated while I was down there. There was a huge school closure issue going on, and there was part of the legislation that came out of that at one point said, you can't close any Chicago public schools. So they have not been able to close schools, but they need to, and they need to do it desperately because just simply, let's just think of these 1,400 teachers that they laid off. Are they the teachers that are in these half-empty schools? Or are they elsewhere and you still have half-empty schools? Or schools where only 10% of it is occupied based on its capacity? If that's the case, this is mismanagement on steroids. And they should receive no more funding until we have more clear data about what they're doing. And honestly, 1,400 teachers leaving CPS, it's a drop in the bucket. Again, 1.8% of their workforce, when we know that they have loads of schools where no kids are learning and where they're under capacity. So I did want to bring that in. Now, before I go on too much further, I did want to bring this up because it's really an important thing to talk about tonight. There is a big meeting at Naperville City Council tonight at 7 p.m. If you are in the area and you're a Naperville resident, especially, you may want to attend. This is a big meeting about what they're going to do with their energy supplier in the future. Right now, they are in part of a contract with 31 other communities. 32 total communities are in the IMEA contract. It's the Illinois Municipal Energy Association. And they basically contract for their power. A lot of their power comes from the Prairie State Energy Center. That they also have other sources of energy as well, including solar. But this coal-fired plant continues to produce energy reliably and more cheaply than anywhere else. And so there's a big discussion on whether or not Naperville is going to renew their contract with IMEA. To date, 28 of the 32 municipalities or cities that are in that particular IMEA contract have already made the decision, yes, we are going to renew with you. Now, Naperville consumes about 1/3 of the power that IMEA produces, and so they're a big player in this. But by no means, because the environmentalists are after this. They want to get rid of a coal just like Pritzker wants to do, which is ridiculous because the Prairie State is not going away. It is probably one of the most efficient coal plants in the country, and it was one of the cleanest coal plants in the entire world when it went into production in 2011, I believe. But it is still one of the cleanest coal plants by far. And so they've got all the highest technology. They spent $1 billion on just the cleaning technology. And they produce the coal right there. There's no shipping of coal. There's nothing like that. It's really efficient. They dig the coal right there and they push the power up to the grid. And they're really essential for reliable, affordable power. So that's a big discussion on whether Naperville is going to be on it. Now, I did highlight something here because in reviewing this entire proposal that's before Naperville right now, I talked with some of the leaders that are dealing with this issue. And I even had Louis Halkias on my radio show on Sunday night to discuss it further. But I think that the numbers tell you everything you need to know. Right now, IMEA, when they are looking at producing power from Prairie State, the cost is $30 per megawatt hour. If they are to go out and purchase power from a solar provider, it is $80 per megawatt hour cost. If they go with a wind purchasing power agreement, it is $85 per megawatt hour, significantly more than the $30. Now, what you see here depicted here in this picture on the screen is Naperville's own solar installation that they did in 2021. It's 4.5 acres. It's 3,348 solar panels. And all this power is supposed to power only 182 homes. That is a fraction of the cost. And what is the cost? Because IMEA also helps power this. This is part of their grouping of supply. They will tell you that it cost $75 per megawatt hour for this solar installation. If you had to go completely solar in the city of Naperville, in discussions that I had with experts, at least 25% of the current land mass of the city of Naperville would have to be covered in solar panels to even supply the amount of power that you would get. And you're going to be paying a tremendous amount more for that power. Now, this particular solar field that I have depicted here, it's right outside the Springbrook water treatment facility. It is expected to go from $75 per megawatt hour up to $92 per megawatt hour in terms of costs. That's cost to the residents. Everybody is experiencing these higher cost bills for their electricity. And right now, Naperville is beating the market. So when your ComEd bill spiked up, Naperville residents did not see that. They're getting cheaper, more reliable power than ComEd can deliver. So, and all these environmentalists need to sit down and take a back seat because, quite frankly, Prairie State is not going away. Given the amount of power that we need to keep producing, there's no way that coal plant is going to shut down. It doesn't matter what Naperville does. They will continue to produce power, and it's some of the cleanest power. So I think it's really important that people get out to that meeting. If you haven't got contact your Naperville City Council member, tell them that you expect them to vote for clean, reliable power, because remember, wind and solar are truly not clean. When you look at it from the entire production line, from the time that you are digging out tons of mining tons of dirt just to get the rare earth metals to produce the solar panels, and then you're spending all that money to produce the windmills, and then you're burying them at the end of the life cycle. That's not clean. Nothing about that's clean. Everybody knows this. We need to stop talking about that. We need to start talking about reality when it comes to this. Now, the next topic that I want to discuss today. Okay, I'm having fun with this. All right. So the other big news here when it comes to energy and stuff, and this is a little bit of a different thing, is you know what happens down there with these legislators, right? They go down there and they're like, okay, well, we're going to pass this massive bill. And everything down in Springfield, it's all about race all the time. It's all about diversity all the time. It doesn't matter that people have gotten past that hurdle. Everything is about diversity and how many jobs are you going to give minority communities. Literally, when you listen to higher education discussions, the questions coming from the left side, from the Democrat side, is always, well, how are you doing on your minority contracting spend? It's not about how many kids did you educate? What are you doing on costs? None of that. It's always about what's your diversity spend for all your contracting. This is what they care about. So whenever there's a huge deal going on, it always goes to the end of what are you going to give the minority people for minority businesses and minority jobs. That's always where it goes. That's always where it ends up. And it was no different with CEJA. CEJA is the Clean Energy Jobs Act that passed in 2021. And in that bill, they promised minority jobs. They promised a whole bunch of them. In fact, this is straight from the cleanenergyjobs.org website. Is that it? Let me see here. My notes. IllinoisCleanJobs.org. IllinoisCleanJobs.org. So that's that picture. This is what they say about that. And I'm going to, let's see here. Oh, no. Let me try here. I'll do it like this way. This way you can see a little bit better. So this is one of their screenshots from the opening of that website. Equitable workforce and business development. This is all about clean jobs. This is all part of the 2021 Act that went through. The climate crisis and systemic racial injustice are inextricably intertwined. We must address both simultaneously, and the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act does exactly that. Underinvested communities, often communities of color, are the first to suffer negative consequences of pollution, but the last to reap the health and economic benefits of a clean energy future. As we move forward on the path to a 100% carbon-free future, that's not going to happen, by the way, it's critical that these same communities reap the benefits of both cleaner air and good-paying jobs. CEJA invests over $80 million every year into developing a thriving renewable energy workforce with Black and Brown communities at the forefront. By prioritizing Illinoisans historically shut out of the clean energy economy, we can cultivate an equitable workforce that brings everyone along. Oh, isn't that just grand? Oh, such great talking points, except that it's completely not working. Not working. CEJA passed in September of 2021. We are now almost 4 years post passage of that bill. 4 years. And none of this is happening. None of this. And a scathing Auditor General report that just came out July 8th says exactly that. And look, I'm no fan of Frank Montino, but at least he did go on air and talk about this. And in this, it says, and actually, this is part of the compliance review for Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunities, who is supposed to implement this program. All right. They're the ones who are supposed to implement this. And in that, the department agreed with the findings and the recommendations. So they're not disputing any of this. This is actually true. And it flat out says non-compliance with the Energy Transition Act. The department did not dedicate at least 1/3 of the Clean Jobs Workforce Network program placements to applicants who reside in a geographic area impacted by economic and environmental changes, with priority given to applicants facing barriers to employment. Well, we know how to read between that lines. That's minorities or people coming out of prison. The department did not administer the Clean Energy Contractor Incubator Program to be delivered through 13 local community-based organizations at designated hub sites. The department did not administer the Returning Residents Clean Job Training Program. That's people coming out of prison. The department did not select and approve program administrators for the Returning Residents Clean Jobs Training Program. The department did not hire a Primes program administrator for the Clean Energy Primes Contractor Accelerator Program, and on and on and on. This is the official report from the Auditor General. But this just came out July 8th. So what? Not even 10 days ago, right? So a week ago, actually. But thank you, Chicago Sun-Times, because in 2022, December 9th, you wrote this article. Illinois hasn't delivered jobs. Job training promised under clean energy law. So the Auditor General's a little late coming to the party here, as are all those Black and Brown legislators who insisted that in order to pass CEJA, you had to have a carve out for a jobs program for their communities. They never said a word. And I've still not heard them say a word post this Auditor General report. But in December of 2022, Chicago Tribune wrote a huge article on this. Huge article. And let's just read a little bit from it. 15 months after J.B. Pritzker signed the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, the state hasn't begun its promised workforce development programs aimed at helping minority contractors and workers. Elisa Benjamin has been running her own general contracting business in Matson since 2007 and is eager to expand and do more energy efficient, environmentally friendly construction and remodeling. Anything and everything that's green and clean, says Benjamin, who is even planning green hard hats for her 8 employees. To be able to hire more workers and expand her business, Benjamin has been counting on job training and placement help that Governor J.B. Pritzker and other politicians promised when the Illinois legislature passed and Pritzker signed into law last year a major clean energy law. But 15 months after Pritzker signed what was touted as the most equitable climate change fighting law in the country, the job training programs, those initiatives were supposed to establish in the growing green economy, helping workers and businesses like Benjamin's Millennium 2 Enterprises still don't exist. Not a single new equity job has been created. And now we sit 2 years post that, 2.5 years post that article, 4 years post the signing of CEJA, and they still don't exist. But people are getting money for it. Oh, hell yeah, they're getting money for it. Take a look at this. One of the partners that's partnering with DCEO to provide the job training is a group called Hire 360. Now, let me see if I can get this a little bit bigger here. Okay, Hire 360. Now, this is taken straight from the GATA database. That GATA is the Grant Accountability and Transparency Act. So this is from their GATA database. And as you can see, this is the awards for Hire 360 for fiscal year 2026. Site improvements, $2 million. Illinois Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program from the CEJA Act. You can see CEJA is right in there. $6.691 million. Another same thing must be a different grant, grant 1, grant 2, grant 7, you name it. Oh, $4.7 million. Then another apprenticeship program, $550,000. Then another one, $465,000. A total of $14 million just in FY 2026. So what's Hire 360 doing? Where are the jobs? Where are the jobs? I think Benjamin, what's her name? Lisa Benjamin would probably like to know. Where's her money? What's Hire 360 doing with this $14 million? Remember, a total of $80 million is supposed to be set aside like every year for this. So these are not the only people receiving this type of money. Others are too. And in fact, when you go to Hire 360, some of the people that they partner with are folks like this. And you know, I looked up a few of these. I wanted to look up all of them. I just really kind of ran out of time getting ready for this. But let's look at the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis. The Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, when we did our DOE stuff, they're already receiving $2 million in separate grant lines from the state of Illinois for probably job training in part, which they also call violence prevention. So they're getting $2 million. Where is it? There's another picture here. Hold on. Oh, there's this one too. So these are Climate Works pre-apprenticeship partners. These are their partners. Another one, another thing that they do is, here's another thing for 360. 360 also has its own community partners. Well, Black Men United received $4.1 million in the budget last year. They were appropriated $4.1 million in the budget. So my point is that everybody who's kind of partnering with 360, Hire 360 is getting its own $14 million. All these other people are getting millions as well from the state of Illinois taxpayers. But where are the jobs? Where are they? Inquiring minds want to know. And taxpayers should want people to figure this out. But all you hear is crickets from these people. You don't hear anything. And quite frankly, I absolutely appreciate the Chicago Sun-Times ran that really great comprehensive article on what's going on. I mean, this is really important information. But the truth is that, you know, we need to package it all together and talk about the money and the money flow and where's it going. And we need full audits of all this. So, I mean, this is just one of those lies, those sweet little lies that the politicians like to tell you, especially J.B. Pritzker, who says, oh, I'm bringing in all sorts of businesses. Oh, yeah, right. You're bringing in a lot of businesses. His latest one is, again, a clean energy company called Pure Lithium. They're located in the Fulton Market area, and they're co-located with a group that includes Chan Zuckerberg's BioHub. Well, I happened to look up Chan Zuckerberg BioHub. They got a $25 million grant from Illinois taxpayers for reconstruction and construction build out for their organization. $25 million to a Chan Zuckerberg BioHub? You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Those guys are billionaires. In the States, we gave them $25 million to build out their BioHub infrastructure in the same place co-located with Pure Lithium that Pritzker just gave them $4.4 million for 50 jobs, or about $88,000 a job. Did your company get that? Did they get reconstruction monies for their headquarters and their labs? Did they get that kind of a payout for their workforce? No, they did not. No, they did not. He continues to create winners and losers in the marketplace, and he's using your money to do it. And he's promising things to people who actually do need opportunities, who actually are stuck in Chicago schools that suck, and everybody knows it. And he's promising them a way out with jobs, with clean jobs that he likes, and then he's not delivering. 4 years post signing that, he's not delivered a one single clean job. It's total bullshit. And as for his lieutenant governor pick, he's a prima donna. Trust me, I served with him. He is a prima donna. And oh, by the way, we'll see what Pritzker does when, Department of Energy is going away at the federal level. Good. And in comes this tax credit scholarship program, but states have to adopt it. They have to agree to allow that scholarship money to flow to their state. When people want to freely identify, organizations that they want to give their money to, their taxes to, and get 100% credit for. But the state's got to adopt that. We'll see how Christian Mitchell falls on that, because he's a product of St. Joseph's in the western suburbs. And Pritzker's kids have had it cushy too. All the magnet schools or private schools that they've been in. So yeah, these are people that say one thing and pander to people and then never get the job done. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. I'm sticking by it. Thanks a lot for joining me.